Sometimes the biggest ideas are hiding in the simplest of sentences. Today we're diving into a sermon that finds this incredible roadmap for hope, and it's all tucked away inside a single verse from the book of Ruth. Let's get right into it.
So our source today is a sermon that takes what looks like a pretty simple concluding sentence and just cracks it wide open. It reveals 4 amazing takeaways. We're going to walk through each one and see just how much meaning can be packed into one little verse.
And here it is, Ruth chapter 4, verse 13. Now, on the surface, it's the classic happily ever after, right? The story's over, she gets the guy, they have a kid, roll credits. But the speaker argues that if you just rush past this verse, you are missing everything.
So what is the big deal with this one sentence? Well, the speaker suggests it actually holds 4 different keys that unlock a much deeper way of thinking about hope, about getting through tough times, and about total transformation. Let's check out the first one. All right, so the first key actually starts with the very last part of the verse. She gave birth to a son. Now, instead of just seeing this as a plot point, the speaker zooms way in and asks us to see it for what it really is, a biological miracle. To put this simple act in perspective, the speaker starts with this absolutely staggering number. Out of 200 to 300 million sperm, only one actually fertilizes the egg. That's a success rate of 0.0000003%. It is a statistically impossible event that somehow happens millions of times a day. And he just keeps driving this point home with more mind-blowing facts. Like every single one of us started as one cell, smaller than a grain of salt. But that one tiny cell contains 6 feet of DNA. And giving birth? That's like running 2 marathons back to back. He uses all this data to kind of shake us awake and force us to see the miracle in what we consider completely normal.
Now, the second key builds on that idea of a miracle, but this time it focuses on Ruth's own personal story. The speaker describes her journey as going from a state of complete, total emptiness to one of overflowing abundance.
I mean, look at this. The transformation is just wild. She starts out as a foreigner, a widow with no kids, no money, no future, basically no hope. By the end of the story, she's an Israelite, a wife, she owns land, she's a mom, and get this, she's an ancestor of King David, and eventually, Jesus. This isn't just a little improvement, it's a complete 180-degree reversal of fortune. To really capture this feeling, the speaker pulls out this famous line from Psalm 23. It's just the perfect metaphor for Ruth's life. Her cup wasn't just filled up, it was overflowing. Her life went from absolute lack to an unbelievable blessing. Okay, this third key is so important because it's kind of the flip side of that last one. While all of Ruth's titles and her situation changed, the speaker argues that her fundamental, intrinsic worth, that didn't change one single bit.
Her labels changed like crazy. She goes from being a foreigner in a strange land to being seen as even lower than a migrant worker in the fields. Then she becomes a protected woman, and finally, a wife and a landowner. Her status just kept climbing, but her value as a person was constant the whole time.
To illustrate this, the speaker shares this incredible story. He had a friend, a very successful actor, an Emmy winner, come speak to a class. And this friend looked at the students and said, "You may think my worth is far greater now than it was when I sat where you are. It has not changed. I'm the same guy. The awards, the status, that doesn't define your core worth." The last key brings us all the way back to the verse itself, zeroing in on that phrase, "the Lord enabled her to conceive." The speaker interprets this as a direct answer to what he calls an impossible prayer. So what's an impossible prayer? The speaker defines it as asking for something that just seems completely beyond all hope. For Ruth, a barren widow in a foreign land, having a child and a secure future was the very definition of impossible. And yet, that is exactly what happened. And this is where it gets really personal. The speaker turns the tables and asks the audience this piercing question. What impossible prayer are you not asking? What are you holding back because you think it's too big, too hopeless, or just too crazy to even say out loud? He then offers this simple 3-step call to action, straight from the book of Matthew. Ask, seek, knock. The whole point is to stop self-censoring our biggest hopes and to actually voice them, no matter how impossible they feel. To tie this all together, the speaker wraps up with this really memorable story that perfectly illustrates what it really means to ask for the impossible. So, picture this. A little boy is in a store. The shopkeeper is this huge man with massive, powerful hands. He kindly offers the boy a handful of lollipops from this big jar and tells him to just go ahead and help himself.
But the boy doesn't move. He just waits. So the shopkeeper reaches in with his own giant hand and pulls out this huge handful for him. Outside, the boy's mom asks him why he was so shy about it, and the boy says, "I want his handful because his hand was so big." He knew the shopkeeper's capacity was way bigger than his own.
And that story leads to the sermon's final provocative question. What prayer are you asking that's too small? It leaves us all to wonder if, maybe like that little boy, we'd be better off trusting a bigger hand to provide for our biggest, most impossible hopes.